What's happening, YouTube? Anthony on Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film with a brand new Hasbro Marvel Legends review for you. And so today we're going to take a look at a very special Marvel Legends figure, X-Men related, and there's a Marvel Legends Dark Phoenix I wanted to review. Now, it's not a Dark Phoenix I wanted years and years back before I'd even started collecting Marvel Legends. So what I have here is a Pheonix Force Jean Grey as the Dark Phoenix that I got from GameStop during my summer hiatus, and this was a Dark Phoenix figure that probably came out in 2024, or, you know, if you have bought this back when it came out. But the condition of the figure, while it's all intact and in good condition, and while I got it from GameStop, I noticed that my box and my package for it is opened, and it looked like somebody at GameStop was probably like fumbling around with the box or forgot to put some tape on it, because it looked like it was loose and it was in the box for a long while. And or obviously, you know how when, you know, people bring kids to a store like GameStop and they see toys, they be ripping the boxes open before parents can even buy the toy or whatever. But these toys ain't for kids, man. So I mean, whatever. But, you know, this is for us series collectors. So this Jean Grey Pheonix Force Jean, definitely something I wanted to add to my X-Men collection. And since I don't have that many X-Men, you know, figures per se, all that much, besides a couple Wolverine and such figures I got laying around in storage right now. But I remember, you know, growing up, I used to have a few X-Men toys. Not a lot of them. I didn't have every action figure of Cyclops or Magneto or Nightcrawler in them growing up, or Storm or Archangel or Havoc or Juggernaut or Mystique. Characters from the fray of the mutants, you know, Mutant Brotherhood, and even Charles's, you know, School of Mutants that are the X-Men. So, you know, I gotta have something X-Men related, you know, in my disposal. And, you know, the Dark Phoenix is definitely one of my, you know, Jean Grey's the Dark Phoenix is one of my favorite female characters in the Marvel Universe. And I thought, okay, you know, I like Jean Grey. She is one of my favorite mutants in the X-Men roster. And you know how much I like Jean. And depending on what version of Jean Grey I like, you know, since I grew up on the 90s X-Men, and so I thought, let's get something that feels more accurate to the comics and even the cartoon, and thought, okay, let's get something like this going on. And knowing this is a very expensive Marvel Legends figure, you know, because I've noticed that a lot of the X-Men figures that I wanted in the past and even today are so expensive, because, you know, yeah, you got a lot of serious X-Men fans out there, you know. And I thought, you know what, I'm a huge X-Men fan. I gotta get me some X-Men up in here, and, you know, just get going with the reviewing and all. And I think what made this figure a $50, you know, Marvel Legends figure is because, given how big that, you know, lightning piece and the display around, you know, Jean's legs, as we showed the render on the back. And I think that's probably why this Marvel Legend figure here is so expensive, because of this particular piece. There are several Marvel Legends figures like this that I've seen that I wanted, like a Ghost Rider on a motorcycle in a long box like that, and that was like expensive too. But I'm not ready to get that figure just yet, but wait until whenever I do, though. But I took a risk at getting this Pheonix Force Jean Grey, because it just looked like something I would like to add to my collection, because it looks like, you know, for someone who always liked the Dark Phoenix saga from after watching the 90s cartoon and looking up stuff about the comic. And even though if I haven't read the Dark Phoenix story, I know about the Dark Phoenix storyline. I mean, I know about the original comic book of the story, but my main exposure to it was, of course, the 90s X-Men animated series, when they did the storyline for a couple of episodes in like the third season of the 90s animated series. Of course, when it came to the Fox X-Men movies, X-Men The Last Stand, and how they did some of the Dark Phoenix stuff. And yeah, knowing how much I didn't like The Last Stand's take on Jean as the Dark Phoenix, and that, because she hardly, you know, I mean, she was, you know, having a hard time controlling the Phoenix power when she came back. But the way how it was done was just poorly misused. Then when Simon Kinberg did the Dark Phoenix movie in 2019, we knew how much of a massive failure and a dumpster fire that movie was. So how come toys about Dark Phoenix, the comics about Dark Phoenix, and a pair of episodes of any of the X-Men cartoons do Dark Phoenix right, but the movies couldn't? I don't know. I really don't know. So this is the front of the package, and you also got a comic book render of Jean as the Pheonix this way, and here's the the toy render of the Pheonix, and look at how it glows too. So, and then the backstory, if you should know. A cosmic power known as the Pheonix Force fuses with X-Men mutant Jean Grey, becoming a nearly unstoppable force capable of peace and or destruction. And that's the backstory. Because again, I know about the Dark Phoenix and the Pheonix Force, so I gotta own this particular piece of that iconic saga in X-Men lore and all of Marvel lore and comics lore in general. So let's unleash that Pheonix and have it rise out of that box. Man, for a $50 Jean Grey, I can see why this was a very expensive thing, because of these lightning effect pieces for her Pheonix, the Pheonix display stand thing. And well, the figure is great, but when you think about those again, when we go over it, so we're gonna go over a couple of the accessories, but even though the accessories are like the big bird of the bunch, so the big, the fiery big bird in the room, if you will. So let's go over. Before we talk about the big fiery Pheonix, we got three accessories outside of the fiery effects. The lightning effect, you got the interchangeable hands. You can switch out that are just bald fist for Jean. And of course, the alternate head for when she wants to get all evil and dark and stuff. Either use the Pheonix Force for good or use the Force for evil, because this is like her evil head, while the other head is like about peace, but you can say it's peace, peace written on it, all right. But yeah, I really like how this head looks. Very evil, demonic, possessive of this Jean Grey head when she is the Dark Phoenix. I know I'm not getting much light. So that's exactly how she looks, and actually they really did a great job doing the sculpting on the hair and how crazy her hair looks when she's all, possessed by the Pheonix Force. And oh my god, and just look how dead red evil, with some of the white around the iris of the eyes, are on her, because very faithful to that comic book translation to the comics for that. So there you go. Then we talk about the accessories. Now, earlier, prior to filming this part of the review, this little plastic piece, you got to put the fiery pieces on together. So one part of it is already on, but I'm trying to put on the other piece. Got to make sure they're also in the ports, because there's a port, plug port here, and then I got to plug it somewhere exactly where it says to put it, and try to plug it all the way inside. Even though I probably should have put this on after this piece, but let's see something here. I know I'm going to struggle a little bit when I get around it. This goblet of fire is plugged up and put together, so we can see what we're dealing with here before I put Jean Grey around this fiery environment on display. Yeah, and it's going to be a little tough, because again, I should have put this on. Put this part first and then this part. And I do like how the light is picking up on the fire effect and the lightning effect to make it give it a glow effect, because without the light it won't have no flare and magic. So well, for now we'll just leave it like this, and that's just how the fire would probably go a little bit. It's really darn beautiful how Hasbro put it with this translucence and everything. And then look at how the light is picking up on this big Phoenix bird. Like, whoa, this is just how fiery and stuff this is. And like, wow, that is so beautiful of what Hasbro and, the Marvel Legends team did on this Pheonix accessory. And just like, wow, just like, it's so darn cool just looking at it. And then lastly, okay, then put the Pheonix in the back. And then lastly, we take a look at this Jean Grey figure, because I already showed the alternate head when she's all possessed and evil. So this face would be like if she was all about peace, while the other head would be if she was to use the Pheonix power for destruction. It's like in the comic. I do like the way how they did this base head of Jean Grey, and it's not a bad bad look on her too. And it's just that likeness. It give her this Irish German ancestry looking face going for her too, because I'm a sucker for German women with face like this. But man, it's just so darn like. Man, they made her so darn hot. I mean, like literally hot with this face and hair. Don't expect Mary Jane Watson with this kind of hair. I mean, face. I swear it would. I mean, unless if you want to put this head on for a Mary Jane Marvel Legends figures, if there is one, or like if you repainted this hair and this was Gwen Stacy or so, for a Spider-Man figure, or I don't know, Pepper Potts or something if you made a ginger. But it's really darn cool how they made the hair, make it look like the hair is blowing and stuff, and just have it static like that. But there's no way you can put the hair down so the hair would just look normal. So this is just as far as you can go with the face. And I like the detail done on the suit. Now, since this is my very first Jean Grey as the Pheonix figure, and I know there was a Jean Grey as the Pheonix figure I should have got years ago that I really, really wanted, that was just twice as hot and voluptuous as this. But man, look at the detail done on this figure. And I do like the shade of green and gold on this Pheonix suit. And you can tell that the Pheonix logo around the breast area is very metallic too. So they use some metallic gold around there, and even some I believe transparent around the boots and gloves and the overall tassel corset around the outfit. So that's really darn fantastic of what they've done on the figure. And I had her pose like this because be the one with the Pheonix and all of that. Have her just, I had her pose like this for several reasons, and hence why when you click the video and this was being the thumbnail, you'll know why. So that's one of the reasons why I have to show off Jean as the Pheonix posing like this. Now, I could take the head off and see how she looks when she's all possessed and evil, if she was to use this power for evil. And if you should know in the Dark Phoenix storyline and how she had a hard time controlling the Phoenix power. I'm trying to get the head off. I'm scared. See, that's the thing with these Marvel Legends. Some of these heads can come off easily, and some are just so difficult to take off. Take off the ball joint. It's just tough. Okay, got it off. And this is just like the same ball joint that I had a hard time taking off from like my Black Suit Spider-Man from Spider-Man 3 from last time. Yeah, it is a coincidence because, Spider-Man 3 and X-Men The Last Stand had something in common. Both of those, mid to late pre-MCU 2000s Marvel movies had two of the heroes go through a dark side and stuff, and I can understand why they were so derivative and divisive with people. I mean, they still hold up somewhat today, but they were still let down third installments to end out their trilogies. And this is how you have Jean as the Pheonix, all evil and possessed. So we're going to take a look at that when having her standing behind the background, and so need be. But I wish that if I had a figure stand to keep that Phoenix piece together, let's see how that is. And because I definitely got to take a photo of this, like really, really bad, and see how she looks with that Phoenix piece up in the air, just like that, and as malevolent, as evil. But man, she just looks like she really has lost herself. And very accurate to how it is in the comic. So that's how you would have Jean as the Pheonix, and when evil and possessed, and that's exactly how faithful she has to look from the comic to the toy and everything, and other forms of X-Men media where Jean is the Dark Phoenix at times. And it's a really good display piece too. I mean, you don't think this was a $50 Jean Grey for nothing. So and I think this is a very fantastic addition to my Marvel Legends. So 2 thumbs up. So in final thoughts, I really actually, despite this being a $50 Jean Grey figure, it was very worth it. I mean, it can have its imperfections and problems. Oh yeah, I forgot articulation. I'm going too fast on the review. I was just amazed by how you have to do the figure and how she's displayed and everything. So before we go over, before I close out the video, go over the articulation real quick. So yeah, you got that head, and how the hair is going to be sticking out and everything, like thorns. So let me take this head off and put on the primary. Oh man, trying to take the head off the ball joint and see how she plays. But I think this figure feels more like for display purposes. I mean, you have your basic articulation points and everything, turning the head all around, up and down and everything. And I'm trying to get this evil Jean head off so I can put on her primary good head on. Okay. Yeah, that was kind of hard. That was really hard to put that head on and off. Tough. Real tough. Okay, there we go. But then on this head, you can turn the head left and right, but you're not going to turn it all the way due to the, again, the hard back ends of the hair. So that's as far as you can go. Then elbow crunch. Her elbow crunch is just like this. And then her elbow crunch for this arm. And then trying to get this elbow on this arm. It's like something's going on with this arm. Because again, pinless joint. And you have it just like this. Okay. And then have her do some pose like that. I should have took a photo prior to this for part of the recording. And then you got a knee, knee crunch. Her knee crunches are pretty good too for a $50 figure. And then you have ankle pivots. Yeah, there's some, tight snapping on the ankles too on that. So, and that's it for my review on the Pheonix Force Jean Grey Marvel Legends figure. And it was definitely worth adding to my collection. I kid you not. It was fantastic. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, drop a like, share this video with your friends, and I'll see you guys next time.